Good evening, you're with News 360, no views, only news in the next 30 minutes. I'm Karma Paljor.
Good evening, I'm Palki. Let's start with the latest cartoon controversy.
If there is any such feeling, I am willing to personally apologize for it.
HRD Minister Kapil Sibal apologizes for the 63-year-old Ambedkar cartoon printed in textbooks after Dalit MPs in the Lok Sabha protest. NCERT advisors resign over the row.
Another blow to the economy. Industrial output at a 5-year low. It's down to minus 3.5%. Stocks take a hit.
The Supreme Court recommends a CBI probe against B.S. Yediyurappa and Jindal Steel Works in an illegal mining scam. The former Karnataka Chief Minister announces a state tour.
Some relief for air travellers. Kingfisher pilots end their strike as the company begins paying salaries. Air India sacks 24 more pilots. Writes to DGCA to cancel their flying licenses.
The Defence Ministry clears a 3,000 crore rupee deal to acquire 145 ultra-light howitzers from the US, the first such deal to procure artillery guns in over 25 years after Bofors.
A $2 billion trading loss for US investment firm JP Morgan. CEO cites poor planning and bad execution of strategy.
First up, a blast from the past. A 1949 cartoon of B R Ambedkar found its way into school textbooks and caused an uproar in Parliament, forcing HRD Minister Kapil Sibal to apologize and NCERT advisors to resign. Pallavi Ghosh with the top story on News 360.
Shankar's 1949 cartoon on Ambedkar has been brought alive more than half a decade later. Its inclusion in an NCERT school textbook angered netas, cutting across party lines, forcing repeated disruptions in Parliament.
At 11 a.m. इस मामले को हम बर्दाश्त नहीं करेंगे.
Baba Sahib Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar may not have had any objection at that time, but what we are objecting to include such an cartoon in the textbook of the students, and that too by a government agency, is highly deplorable.
A startled HRD minister was forced to apologize.
The distribution of both these textbooks has been stopped. We have directed the NCERTs to stop the distribution of these textbooks. And we have set up a committee to review not just the cartoons but the content of these textbooks.
Ambedkar remains a sensitive issue every political party wants to tap. The hangama in Parliament has angered many cartoonists. In a first fallout, NCERT advisors Yogendra-Yadav and Suhas-Palshikar resigned.
Being able to write such textbooks was a sign of maturity of our democracy. And I do hope that our lawmakers would wish to continue to be as mature as they appeared earlier.
It may be an old cartoon, but for our netas, it's an issue which remains evergreen. Yet another important day of transactions inside the Parliament was lost to politics. With Bureau Inputs in New Delhi, Pallavi Ghosh.
Are politicians justified in agitating over an Ambedkar cartoon? That's the talking point tonight on India at 9.
The other big story, more bad news on the economic front. Industrial production has unexpectedly gone down. The output has slumped to minus 3.5% as compared to 4.1% in February. This is the first time since October 2011 that output has turned negative. There's a huge fall in manufacturing and capital goods. So what could be the impact of the falling industrial numbers? Well, one, there could be a policy paralysis which has already set in with the government. Negative sentiment in the stock market. We saw the markets falling, sliding today. Manufacturing sectors also likely to see job losses, something the country cannot afford. Inflation, crude oil and reforms are key to recovery. Sentiment will be weak till April. Of course, the April numbers could show a turnaround, less scope for interest rate reduction in June. That's when the RBI announces its credit policy. The government, of course, calling an emergency meeting next week to decide. Commerce Minister Anand Sharma says, we have urged RBI for a differential rate of credit for manufacturing. Credit should be available at affordable rates for industry. We'll be conducting a stock-taking exercise with all export promotion councils on the 17th of May. We'll convene Board of Trade meeting on June 1st. A government industry task force meeting will be convened.
These figures are disappointing. Though RBI's monetary policy stance has been reversed in its last policy announcement, it will take some time for interest costs to come down. The continued weak global business sentiments are also adversely impacting the Indian economy.
C. Rangarajan, Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, is a part of it, has denied policy paralysis has anything to do with the industry output slump.
I do not see the policy environment in any way less conducive than what it was in the 2005-06. What is really required is the continuation of the reforms. Where the reforms require legislative approval, there are problems, and therefore the need to take the other parties into confidence has become relevant. But I would want to assert that the policy environment has not deteriorated from what it existed in those years in which we had a rapid growth of the economy.
And now to the other big problem we are tracking, the crisis in the skies. Turbulence in Air India continues and no end in sight so far. The airline has sacked 24 more pilots, taking the total number of sacked pilots to 70. Also asking the DGCA to cancel the licenses of those pilots who have been sacked. In fact, the airline has framed a contingency plan for international flights starting Monday. The pilots are on the back foot, saying they are ready for talks and that they too are concerned about the airline's health.
सरकार की नीतियों के हिसाब से सबसे बातचीत करके ही हो रहा है.
So the Supreme Court has refused to entertain the Air India's plea against the Indian pilots again. How do you respond to that and ask you to basically sit down with them and find a way forward?
I'm not aware what Supreme Court has said. I'll check. We are always willing to sit down anyway, even before Supreme Court said it.
And Kingfisher pilots, meanwhile, have called off their strike.
The strike, of course, called off after the company started paying pending salaries today. 24 Kingfisher Airlines flights were cancelled over 2 days following the strike by Delhi-based pilots. Our focus now on Karnataka, where the Supreme Court today ordered a CBI probe on former Chief Minister B S Yedurappa and also Jindal Steelworks, the company he allegedly favoured in an illegal mining case. It's a big blow not only to Yedurappa but also to the BJP in the state.
The BJP's tallest leader in Karnataka has taken a mighty tumble. B S Yedurappa, forced to stand down as Chief Minister in July 2011, will now have to submit to a CBI investigation. On Friday, the Supreme Court ordered the probe on Yedurappa for allegedly granting undue favours to Jindal Steelworks for illegal mining in return for donations to a trust run by his relatives.
So the Supreme Court has ordered a CBI investigation, a thorough CBI investigation into the payments made by the Jindal group of companies and their associates to trusts and organizations of Mr. Yedurappa's kith and kin.
It's a blow not just to the former Chief Minister but to the BJP too, which promised to bring change to Karnataka after it established its first government in the south in 2008.
You would think the Supreme Court order writes off Yedurappa's chances of becoming Chief Minister again. But will the man who's been waiting in the wings since the day he quit the Chief Minister's post reconcile to that? Over the last few months, Yedurappa has thought of quitting the BJP off and on. But bringing down a government in haste could also backfire on him in an election year.
There's a conspiracy to make me an accused before you all. My future aim is to be free of all these allegations. I want to prove that I am innocent. Only then will I rest.
Perhaps the only man relieved is Chief Minister Sadanand Gowda, who's had to battle with rebellion within the party almost every day since he took over.
Just passing an order of inquiry doesn't mean that everything is over. I hope that Yediyurappa will come out clean, and certainly CBI will investigate the matter and truth will come out.
With Ashok Bagria and Deepa Balakrishnan in Bangalore, this is Priyali Sood, New Delhi.
More politics, and looks like Nitin Gadkari will continue as the president of the BJP. The RSS, we are told, has given a green signal to his staying on in the post. The final decision on this will be taken by the BJP at its national executive meet. And the BJP continued to gun for Home Minister P. Chidambaram on the Aircel Maxis deal in Parliament today. Opposition MPs say Chidambaram's statement in the House is a violation of rules as he was reading out a statement issued by his son Karthi Chidambaram. The MPs forced an adjournment of the Rajya Sabha over the matter.
मिनिस्टर अपनी बात कहे वो भी समझ में आता है, लेकिन पुत्र के पत्र उसमें भी ईसा मसीह की नसीहतें पुत्र के माध्यम से कि ये लोग अज्ञानी हैं, जानते नहीं ये क्या कर रहे हैं। अगर इसकी इजाजत यहाँ दी जाएगी तो कैसे होगा।
कोई उल्लंघना कहीं नहीं हुई, किसी बात कोई नियमावली के विपरीत नहीं हुआ। ये अनिवार्य था, ये उम्मीद की जा रही थी कि इस बात पे आगे गृह मंत्री अपना बात कहें, और ये स्पष्ट कर देना सही था कि जो इल्जाम उन पे लगाए गए हैं वो इल्जाम गैर जिम्मेदाराना है।
And there's no relief for A. Raja. The order on his bail plea has been reserved for the 15th of May. The former telecom minister had applied for bail earlier this week for the first time since he was jailed 15 months ago. The CBI opposed the bail plea. A. Raja is now the only 2G accused still in jail. Let's talk about the tremors now. An earthquake measuring 5.4 on the Richter scale rocked parts of the northeast this evening.
Tezpur in Assam was the epicenter of that quake. Tremors were felt in Kolkata, Shillong and Guwahati. Thankfully, no casualties or major damage reported.
कुछ काम कर रहा था लैपटॉप में, तभी उससे 6:20 में एक बड़ा झटका आया था, भूकंप का महसूस हुआ था। तब तो हम लोग नीचे आ गया तुरंत, मतलब नीचे में आ गया।
We had an earthquake of moderate magnitude 5.4 today evening at 6 hours 11 minutes, and the epicenter was in the Nagaon district of Assam. This is qualified as a moderate magnitude earthquake.
Other top focus, the Defence Ministry into an overdrive. Today it cleared a big gun deal. This is to buy 145 ultralight howitzers from BAE Systems. This latest howitzer deal will cost India about 3,000 crore rupees. This is the first purchase of howitzers after the Bofors deal. BAE howitzers are essentially artillery guns used in the mountains.
The deal for the acquisition of the M777 ultralight howitzer has been under negotiation for some time. The final clearance has been given by the cabinet, and we expect contract negotiations to begin. Now, this is an FMS, foreign military sales by the US, so it's a straight government-to-government deal. There are no agents involved, and we expect that the contract will be negotiated fairly speedily. The plans are to acquire as many as 400 guns in the course of the next few years, and we would expect that at some point, eventually perhaps, there will be some kind of a technology transfer, which would mean that the guns or parts of the guns could be made here in India. This is the first major acquisition in many years, and in that sense comes as a big morale booster for the Army's artillery.
Now, more national news. Nearly 4 years since the shocking double murders of Arushi and Hemraj, the trial began today.
The Sessions Court has set the next date of hearing as the 14th, asking the CBI to submit more documents. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court has set May 16th as the next date of hearing on the Talwar's review plea. Nupur Talwar's bail plea will be heard after that. Nupur Talwar has spent nearly 2 weeks in jail now.
Court has accepted Delhi Police's plea to drop the stringent Makoka charges against Abu Salem after a Portuguese court wanted those charges removed if a case for his extradition was to stand.
A setback for Bangaru Lakshman after the Delhi High Court rejected his plea of expediting the case due to his age and failing health. The court will now hear his appeal on the 5th of July. A special CBI court had sentenced him to 4 years in prison earlier this month for taking a bribe in the 2001 Tehelka sting operation. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee has hinted that the general elections will be held a year earlier in 2013. Mamata Banerjee claimed today that she has information that a political party in Delhi held a meeting today to advance the Lok Sabha poll to 2013. While she refused to name the party, she told her partymen to remain ready.
Home Minister P. Chidambaram made a strong push today for the anti-terror body, the National Counter-Terrorism Centre. At a Home Ministry meeting, he said institutions like the NCTC are needed since the threat perception of terrorism continues to be high. He said, and I quote, each day we delay the NCTC, we increase our risk. Call it the Satyamev Jayate effect. The Rajasthan government has agreed to set up a fast-track court to expedite trial of female feticide cases, and this comes 2 days after actor Amir Khan met Chief Minister of Rajasthan Ashok Gehlot to appeal for a speedy trial.
With that, going to a short break. Coming up next, all the international news.
Former News International chief Rebecca Brooks admits to having received text messages from British Prime Minister David Cameron after the phone hacking scandal broke.
The potential for a few flurries over Balmoral. Who the hell wrote this script?
And
as the afternoon goes on.
Prince of Wales on rain and gales.
Right.
Prince Charles turns weatherman for the BBC in Scotland. International news and tough times for investment firm JP Morgan. The company has reported $2 billion trading losses from a failed hedging strategy. The losses stem from wagers gone wrong in the bank's chief investment office, which manages risk for the New York company. The bank's chief executive officer, James Dimon, called the bank strategy quote-unquote flawed, complex, poorly reviewed, poorly executed and poorly monitored.
And news from the Leveson inquiry in the UK into the media standards and ethics. Former News International Chief Executive Rebecca Brooks is giving evidence today. She's agreed that Prime Minister David Cameron sent her a text message of sympathy when forced to resign, and that she was regularly in touch with him. But she also argued that newspapers don't wield disproportionate influence on politics.
TV audiences in Scotland received a surprise.
As the afternoon goes on.
And that's when the weather forecast was delivered by Prince Charles. The British royal gesture towards the map behind him describing the wet and cold conditions in store for Scotland. This move is part of the Prince's attempts to appear more accessible to the public. He's on his annual visit to Scotland.
With that, come to the end of the show. News and updates continue here on CNN IB.
Thanks for watching. Good night.